So let's meet our patient. Amanda is a 33-year-old female. She is being treated for cervical cancer, and she has several symptoms related to her chemo. Nausea and vomiting. Mucositis, if you remember, that is inflammation along the GI tract, and so it can cause some sores and bleeding and pain. And she also has decreased appetite and cachexia. So to make it nice and clear and to make sure we don't miss anything, I'm going to separate things into intake and output. I'm going to drag and drop. So MSS is going to be output. Normal saline at 125 an hour is intake. That's our IV fluid. Jello becomes liquid at room temperature, so that's going to be intake. Pudding does not become liquid at room temperature, so that's going to be neither. I'm not going to count that. Liquid stool is output. Metronidazole, so that's an antibiotic, an IV antibiotic, that's going to go into intake. Water is intake. Juice is intake. And then urine output for the shift. So now that we have our categories, we're going to go and do intake and get everything to milliliters. So next, let's convert from ounces to milliliters. For this, we have 15 ounces. We're going to multiply that by 30 milliliters, and that equals 450 milliliters. I like to just stop every step and think, does this make sense? So 450 milliliters, does that look like a large cup of juice and some Jello? That makes sense to me. And again, just to keep this simple, I'm just doing one kind of IV fluid, and this would be not something like an antibiotic or like a saline flush. This is something that's running for multiple hours. And so it's going to depend on your shift. Typically we work 12-hour shifts. And so 125 milliliters per hour times 12 hours equals 1,500 milliliters. So now we're going to just add up. So everything is in milliliters now from our first screen. And so now we're going to just add it up. So Jello and juice, the things that were in ounces, is 450. She had water, 360. Her IV fluid, 1,500. And then I want to talk about this one. Don't get distracted or confused here. Metronidazole is an antibiotic. And see, it's written as 500 milligrams and 100 milliliters. We want to only focus on the volume. So 500 milligrams is the dose. It's the amount of medication. And 100 milliliters is the volume. So we add up all of our milliliters and go ahead and use your calculator for that. You can hit pause. And I checked it twice to make sure I have the right answer for my own problem. I got 2,410 milliliters total for my intake. So output is pretty straightforward. We have anything that's liquid. So emesis, liquid stool, and urine. So we're just going to add these up. So I just added these up and I got 1,850 milliliters. Now I am going to subtract our output from our intake. So we had 2,410 in and 1,850 out. And so we know we are going to be positive fluid balance, which makes sense because our patient was dehydrated. And our difference is, hopefully you're calculating along with me, we are 560 milliliters positive. So hopefully that helps. I would encourage you to try to do the same process for some other samples that you make up and try to make it a little more complicated. A couple ways to do that would be to add in things like multiple IV flushes, some tube feeding, which would also be included in intake, and you'd have to multiply the amount by how many hours the tube feeding is going. And you could also add in IV medications. So before you submit any answers, make sure that you are accounting for everything in both of those categories and everything is down to milliliters, and you should be good to go. Thank you.